All right. Well, hello again, all the boys and girls out there in YouTube land watching. John and Ellie of Georgia Beer Reviews back at you this evening with a special spur of the moment examination. You know how we like to do here on Georgia Beer Reviews. What we are doing is a Foothills Brewing Hoppyum IPA examination. So Foothills Brewing is out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. This is one of the breweries that I was actually able to go to. I went up to North Carolina last year and visited a good buddy, William Kepley, and we actually did a brewery tour. I got to try a lot of their beers. They do distribute in the state of Georgia, but I have found lately that their beers are a little bit more difficult to acquire. So we both have the Hoppyum IPA. The Hoppyum IPA is 6.25% alcohol by volume and 78 IPUs. I have the bottle, and Michael, you can show Michael has the 19.2 stovepipe can. It's a 19.2 ounce can. A lot of these craft breweries are doing the 19.2 ounce cans. So you get a little bit more than a pint, but you're not quite getting the 24 ounce, which 19.2 ounce, if you can get, I think for craft beer, you can get anything like that in a can. Typically the price point is pretty reasonable. So you're getting a pretty good value because you get to buy a single, but you get more than your typical 12 ounce bottle or can. So Michael, this is your first experience with Foothills Brewing, right?
My nephew, who lives in Raleigh, has had Foothills beers, and he was the one who gave me the sexual chocolate bottle, which I still have, and I'm cellaring at least temporarily. I don't know how long it's going to last, but at least so far, I've had that since late January, and so I can cellar stuff though. I have enough different beers that I don't see it and then have to drink it. So we'll see.
Now, interestingly, so there's like a lot code in black ink, but on the top of the bottle, there's like a date code, and I can't quite make it out, but it looks like it was bottled on November 28th. So it's not super fresh. Like I said, I've had a hard time finding Foothills in my area lately, so I don't know if that'll affect it. I have had a fresh sample of this many times, not only at the brewery, but I've also bought this, in years past and had a super fresh sampling. So I'll know if the taste is off. But is there a date on your can?
Mine is just before yours, 11/22. So mine's as old as yours.
Okay, so we should be getting similar experiences then.
Comparative beers, anyway.
Okay. Well, let's hope that they, that the hop character is still present. It's really not that old when you think about it. 6 months shelf life, it's still within that range. The appearance on both of ours looks about the same. What would you say? That's kind of like a hazy light orange color.
And the head is kind of off-white.
Yep, slightly off-white, kind of frothy looking.
But it looks
not
like
necessarily, not really a creamy head or anything.
But head retention, though, it comes back, it reactivates, and that's good.
Right.
What kind of are you getting?
Well, I will. Yeah, you go ahead. You can go ahead and first, since you've never had a Foothills beer before. Let me know what you're getting, and then I'll tell you.
The first thing I'm getting some of the citrus hops. Now I don't know what it's going to taste like yet. I'm getting some kind of citrus. I'm not sure what else. Let me see if I can get any other hops or any other. To me, I'm getting citrus. What are you smelling?
I'm smelling a little bit of I'm getting like a lemon zest and a slight tangerine note.
Okay, so you're
getting a lot of malt though. This is faded a little bit because I've had it super fresh. So there's a little bit more malt character coming through with my bottle here.
I'm getting the malt too.
It's not a bad thing though. It smells, because I'm not a super big fan of the really hoppy resinous West Coast IPAs. And the Hoppyum IPA from Foothills it's not a juicy IPA. It's not they've got the hops right there on the label. This is supposed to be more of a West Coast style IPA. So the hops may have faded a little bit.
What does your carbonation look like through? Are you getting a big bubble stream through the middle when you're looking at it?
Well, my glass is not etched, so I'm not really getting a ton of bubbles. There's a few little streaming bubbles going up, but it's not. It doesn't look like it's super carbonated, to be honest.
Mine is the same. There's a steady bubble stream, but it's only small bubbles,
And it's like on the outside of the glass, kind of.
It's not concentrated. It's on the edges more than it is.
Yeah, for me too. Yeah. So we pretty much have the same appearance. I'm getting the same aromas as you are. There's a lot of, there's more of a malty aroma with this that I'm picking up.
Ready to go in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cheers.
Cheers. Mm.
It's really good. I like this.
Yeah.
And
so
you get the bitterness on the taste, which I didn't smell.
The hops may have faded just a little bit, but not much. I'm still getting a nice hop presence. But what I really love about this beer is I'm getting some caramel notes, and I'm getting like a toasty bread note in the middle. So the malt character is really shining through here, and then the hops on the back end kind of balance it out. But I'm going to be honest with you, it almost drinks more like a hoppy lager than an IPA. You know, like a
only reason
dry hopped lager or something like that.
It could be that, but the reason I would say you can always tell it's still an IPA is I don't think you have lagers that have this many IBUs, and I'm still getting that bitter sensation in mine.
I definitely am. I definitely am picking up on the bitterness on the finish. But this is a 78. Let me put this up here for the viewers again. This is a 78 IBU beer.
I'm not getting 78 IBUs, but I'm getting more than 50.
That could be
maybe that's
hop. The dates.
Maybe that's hop fade a little bit.
I mean, we possibly. I'm kind of glad that we got similar dates on our bottles or on our beer. You have a can, I have a bottle, but we have similar dates. So we're probably getting very similar notes. Probably picking up on the same hop fade and the same malt character because of the hop fade. And I have had this fresh, and I will say there is a difference, but this is a beer that I actually prefer it a little bit older. I obviously wouldn't want to age it for a year or more because it is an IPA, but a slight hop fade, because it started out at 78 IBUs, that little bit of a hop fade lets the malt come through a little bit more, and I like it. I think it's pretty dang tasty. I like this better than the fresh sample that I tried back at the brewery, honestly.
Well, I like it too. I've never had the fresh one, so I can't have anything to compare it with. But as we've discussed before, with the New England style, I've been getting less into the bitter, very bitter beers. So maybe 78 fresh, I wouldn't like that as much as I did before. I'm not sure.
Are you getting a touch of like I hate to use caramel because when I think of caramel, I'm thinking like porter stouts, like a darker type beer. But I'm getting like almost like a sweetness that I attribute to like a Werther's Original or like a caramel sweetness to it that I think is from the hop fade. It's allowing the malt character to come through a little bit more. And if you look at it,
I was going to say, I think what you're getting is malt sweetness, and I think what that probably does translate to is a malty kind of toffee kind of flavor.
Yeah, there's a touch of that in there. And it still finishes pretty dry, but the hops that I'm getting on the finish aren't lingering, so it's not, this is more sessionable now. Like when you have a lingering hop presence, or at least when I detect a lingering hop presence, it almost makes it like it keeps building up on the palate to where it gets so bitter that after one or two beers, you're ready to call it quits. Whether it's a session at 4%, 4.2%, or it's an imperial at 6, 7, 8, or well, not 6, 7, 8% plus, that bitterness, that lingering bitterness that you get with a lot of the West Coast IPAs makes them undrinkable to me almost after the first 12 to 24 ounces. With this one, I could drink 3 or 4 of these, and I think I'd be fine because the smoothness, the bitterness is not lingering. That little slight sweetness, that caramel sweetness that I'm calling it a caramel sweetness, and that malt character really kind of make it more desirable for me to want to drink a little bit more of these. I really like this, and I've had both a fresh sample and this sample. Even super fresh, it wasn't terribly bitter. It is more along the lines of a West Coast IPA, but it wasn't one of those. A lot of people refer to them as palate wreckers. It's not one of those beers that you're going to drink, and I think you're not going to get sick of it after one or two. I don't think.
Right. Well, it's funny. I have one more. This is one of the ones that I had. He gave me a double in. He gave me, of the 35 cans he gave me, there are 5 that have doubles. So there were 40 beers total.
Okay.
So I have another one, and I think he gave me a double of the Dream IPA, which was also from Foothills. I don't. Did you try Dream when you were at the brewery? I'm not sure if you did or not. And
I tried. Now, what was the one you're talking about?
Dream IPA.
No, I tried. I've had the 1,000 Smiles. I had the Sexual Chocolate.
He gave me one of the 1,000 Smiles too.
Now, the Sexual Chocolate you're going to really like, and one thing I would really love to try. They have a barrel aged series that is probably out now. When I was at the brewery, they hadn't actually released the beer yet, but they have a barrel aged version of the Sexual Chocolate and a barrel aged version of a couple of the other beers in their lineup as well that they released as limited edition brews. So I'd be really interested, especially for the Sexual Chocolate, because the Sexual Chocolate, it drinks like a Russian Imperial IPA, kind of like what's the one? The North Coast Brewing, Old Rasputin. The Old Rasputin. It's kind of like that with the bitterness on the back end to kind of off-put the maltiness that you typically get with the stout. But when you take a beer like that and you barrel age it, you pretty much eliminate the bitterness. And then it becomes a malt-forward booze bomb in the best possible way, at least in my opinion, because I love the barrel-aged stouts. And I know you do too. So I would love to try the Sexual Chocolate barrel age, but I'm very interested to see what you think of the standard Sexual Chocolate, because I've had that. And the fact that yours has had a little bit of time to age, I think that it's only going to improve, because as those hops fade, that malt forward presentation, or the malts are going to it's going to come through a lot more, and you're really going to be, pleased with it, I think. So we got Drunken One in the chat. Cheers to you, Drunken One. And we got Bumpy Road. He says he's eyed that beer.
Yeah, see, when I sent William on Messenger earlier today telling him about all the beers my cousin sent me and told him there was some from Foothills. So he thought I should try the Hoppyum tonight on Wildcard Wednesday. And I didn't mention to him that I was going to be doing you later in the evening after. So I did a Wicked Weed beer from Asheville, a sour session. And
was it the cherry lime
key lime burst?
Like she burst. I almost picked up a 6-pack. Holy cow.
Oh, so
I almost picked up a 6-pack of that. I was at the store earlier and they had it, and I passed on it so I could get the pick your own 6-pack of this, and then I bought some local craft beer. But
well,
I'm gonna have to. You let me know how that is, and if it's good, I'll pick it up.
I just did it on Wildcard Wednesday. You could look at the review, but you know what it drinks like? It drinks like a soda more than a beer, but it still tastes like a beer.
Okay.
Have you ever gone to like a soda fountain and had a lime Ricky, which is like lime and has some other flavors in it? That's exactly what it tasted like.
Really?
The other people there said we don't go to fountains very often. This is when I was younger. I don't go to fountains now either. How many places do you have we can go in? In New York, it was an egg cream that they would make in the fountain. But it's a localized thing, and it was called the Lime Ricky. I don't know what else was in it, lime and something else. That's exactly what it tastes like. I think you'd like it. The cherry is more background. The lime is the primary taste. It's a tart sour. And it goes down real easy. It's 4.5%.
Right. Okay.
And I haven't had much Wicked Weed either. It's an InBev company. It was taken over by Budweiser's parent.
Right.
As Bumpy did the 2019 Bourbon County tonight.
Man, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the Wild. I missed it. If Ron or if any of you guys are watching from Wildcard Wednesday, I had every intention to join, but I got home late. Wednesday's just a bad night for me. It's one of my busiest days, so I hope you guys understand. It wasn't personal. I would love to join all of them, but I can't.
Joined, but had audio problems. But he came back at the end and we were able to hear him.
Who was that?
William Kepley had audio problems hooking up.
Okay. I thought you were talking about Jean-Pierre. I'm like, well, what? He always
had problems with his laptop, so he couldn't even come on. But Alex, the beer master, was there. Bumpy, me, Jay. Who am I forgetting? Eric.
Bumpy says I was brilliant.
He was brilliant.
Yeah, nice and humble. Bumpy's always been a humble guy.
He hadn't had the Bourbon County since 2015, so he was excited.
Such an easy stout to talk about. I'm now, Bumpy, did you have the 14.7 or the 15.2?
15.2.
15.2. So we got the good one. Hey, I'll take the 14.7. I'll take either one of them. I don't care. The only one I get is the Cafe Ole.
Well, Bumpy was talking because last year he bought the one that had the orange in it, and he didn't like
Midnight Orange. Yeah,
he didn't like paying that much for a variant.
And you had it as well, and you said that it didn't really taste like orange; it tasted more like cherry
to me.
Right, man. But it was still in the A range. It just wasn't. It didn't really live up to the name
to pay twice as much for a variant that's not as good as the original. Why do you want to do it? I mean,
I paid $21.99 for the Cafe de Olla one that we did. I would have much rather had the higher alcohol standard variant, 15.2% Bourbon County Stout, than the one that I had with the coffee and all the other cinnamon and whatever in it, because I don't need all that other stuff. Plus it cuts the beer down, and you're not getting the true bourbon barrel. You're not getting the true representation of what they're trying to do with the beer. And Whiskey Scout, you don't know what it tastes. I don't know what it tastes like, Whiskey Scout, but I would love to try. You want to send me a bottle? Man.
They are getting harder to find now, though. I'm sure it's available someplace. The Co-op doesn't have it anymore, but I mean, you probably could find it somewhere in New York.
It tastes like yummy, Bumpy says. I'll have to take your word for it, Bumpy.
Bumpy gave it a 99.
Really?
Yep.
Golly. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, well, but it's not like you're never going to try it. It's just that you'll have to wait until you move out.
I'll have to wait years, until
that's all, Maybe Georgia.
I will be out of state next week for, I won't get too specific, but on air anyway, but I am going on vacation next week. So I will look for different beers while I'm out of state, but I'm going to Tennessee, and their alcohol laws are even more messed up than the ones here in Georgia. So for me to get the really high alcohol beers, I either have to go back to Louisiana. Ron lives in a great state. When I went to visit him, I got the Bourbon County barley wine, the wheat wine. I got some really high alcohol stuff from Evil Twin, among other things. Or I'd have to go up north.
North Carolina has less stringent laws.
North Carolina is less strict, but they still have a limit. I think their limit is 16. If I'm not mistaken. To truly get the unlimited range, I'd have to go to either Louisiana or Jersey or New York, far northeast coast, because for whatever, it's just that's how it is here.
Florida doesn't have any regulation, I don't think, but that's pretty far from you too.
Florida does have, you can't get
nothing. You can't get high ones.
You can go. They have liquor available in their grocery stores, but you still can't get over like 14%. I don't think. I've looked. Believe me, I've looked. I go to Florida every year, at least once a year with my parents. They go to Navarre Beach, Perdido Key. They bring the camper down. I'll go visit for a weekend, whatever. And every time I'm down there, I always look at the stores to see if they have any high alcohol stuff, and they don't. At least not in the areas that I go to.
And Alabama's the same 14% too.
Alabama's 14% as well. They're actually even more strict than Georgia. They don't sell 40-ounce. They don't sell the big bottles at gas stations. They don't sell any of the malt beverage stuff, like which I'm not buying that anyway, but like the cheap malt beverage, like the Four Loko super high alcohol stuff. They don't sell that stuff in Alabama hardly, not like they used to.
It says here, I'm looking in Florida, 40-ounce bottles of beer or malt liquor are not sold in Florida. Maximum available size is quarts.
Right. Yeah. Hey, Georgia, if I was a big, if I drank nothing but malt liquor and I had a channel where I wore a paper bag over my face and chugged malt liquor, I'd be in luck. That's because I live in a good state for that type of thing. But when it comes to the super exquisite craft beer, that the super high ABV barrel aged stuff, I'm cut off at 14%, which sucks because that's my thing. I love the barrel aged stouts, especially stouts. And you're looking at, a good portion of, world class stouts are not available to me here because of our alcohol laws.
See, it's funny. We're this whole area I live in the Northeast is basically no regulation, and you can even get that weird Samuel Adams Utopia stuff, which I think is about 30%.
30-40%, which it's really like a liqueur more than it is a beer.
But I think technically it's a beer because they use hops to brew it.
Right. Yeah.
But I wouldn't pay the money. It's $200 for a little small bottle. I mean, you got to be crazy. That's
whiskey stout. I don't know if he's talking.
Claiming is full of BS. Bumpy for his being.
He said, I think he's talking about Bumpy. Don't listen to Bumpy. Then Bumpy says, I asked Alex for tasting notes prior to the stream.
Alex did the Frangelic one from Founders.
Frangelic Mountain Brown from Founders. Wow.
I gave it a 96.
Wow. Okay. That's a good beer, yeah. It's not as good as the Underground Mountain Brown, but then again, it's not barrel aged and it has artificial hazelnut flavor. So I'd say it's doing pretty good for what it is.
Can you get Trogs from Pennsylvania in Georgia?
Nope.
Because Eric did Nucket Nectar, which is their big.
I've heard about Trogs. I've had to listen to it from him and CBP and all that. They talk about Trogs all the time, but yeah, we don't get Trogs here. I think Robert the Whiskey Scout gets Trogs. If I'm not mistaken, he was drinking a Trogs earlier this week. He posted something.
I can get it here. We're close. I think Alex the Beer Master can get it too. See, he's in a bordering state.
Alex, yeah. Well, let's see. We're getting off track here a little bit. We've only been going for 20 minutes. What are we thinking? Let's get back to the Hoppyum IPA. What are we thinking about the Hoppyum IPA?
I actually, since I haven't had a fresh one, I have nothing to compare it to. I'm willing to say, though, that the maltiness in mine does make it positive. So I'm with you on the fact that I like the combination, maybe a little bit of the faded hops in this, that it tones it down a little bit. And the way the carbonation is, everything is fine. So to me, this is a really very good beer.
Okay. What do you think of, like, rating wise? What would you give it?
A 93.
93. So, okay. So just getting into like a solid A, because 90, 91, 92 would be an A minus. So 93 is like just on the cusp between an A minus and a straight A.
And I would give it a higher grade. I think if it was
really
fresh. Because in other words, if the hops had faded a little bit less, I think I would like it more. That's just,
okay.
You made it higher because the hops faded more.
My initial rating of this, I can't tell you honestly. All the viewers out there, if you want to go back and look at my review from 8 months ago or whatever, fine. I don't know what I gave it. But my guess was that I gave it somewhere in the A to low A range. I like the fact that it's got a little bit more malt forward presentation. The hops are still there; they're faded a little bit, but you're not sometimes when you have an old IPA and the hops fade, you get like a musty type note. I'm not getting that with this. So that's a positive. The hops may have faded a little bit, but it doesn't have an off flavor because of the faded hops. It just allows the maltiness of the beer to come through a little bit more. And the malt character with this beer is dynamite. So my rating was a 94.
Okay.
So just above you, Michael, but you know, and you probably would be the opposite of me. If you got a fresh sample, you would probably rate it a little bit higher. Whereas I kind of like where this one is sitting with the balance between the malt and the hops.
And even though this doesn't taste like a 78 IBU beer, I do like the bitterness on the finish. It does. There's a bitter taste in your mouth on the finish, which I think is positive.
The thing with this, yeah, it's not a super bitter, piney, resinous thing. It's almost like a herbaceous bit hop finish. At least for me, I don't want to say earthy, but there's almost like an herbaceous hop finish. It's not so much resinous, piney that you get with these palate wrecker West Coast IPAs. It's more of like a lemon zest and herbaceousness. I can't really.
Yeah, I'm getting that lemon rind also, but I think that's the bitterness that you're getting. It's kind of a citric bitterness, a rind bitterness.
You know what? The more I sip on it, this is what it is. It's kind of like if you drink. It's almost got like a tea component to it, like a green tea type of note.
I can see that.
That's kind of. I think that's what it is. A green tea note on the finish, and it's coming. It's obviously coming from the hops, but the hops have faded somewhat. So maybe that green tea note wouldn't have come through if it was super fresh. But that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
But yeah, a little bit of a green tea finish.
Green tea on the back, and look, it's funny now to just talk about, and I've had like 7, I think, of the North Carolina beers. So that's a 20%. For the most part, the last 5 I've had, which some of them you don't even have any date, so I don't even know where they are. The ones that were the oldest, I finished right at the beginning, and those you could tell were too faded. Right. I don't know if I told you, but when I started doing them at the beginning, I had one that was from 12/20 of 18, and it was an IPA. So,
okay.
I gave it a C. And it's funny when you taste these beers and you realize that it's caused by the age, you know that same beer would have been a B if it had been fresh.
If it had been fresh, yeah.
Even an A-. It's hard to tell the difference because the fade. But again, with that beer was 15 months old. So I mean, it's 15 months start with an IPA starts to be too much because then.
And the hop fade comes in small doses. Like initially, I think at the hop fade stage we are now, we're getting the best possible hop fade stage because you're not getting the musty qualities. The hop character is still coming through enough to balance out the malt character. But if you're more into malty beers, it allows that malt character to come through a little bit more. If another couple months from now, this beer would probably start to develop that musty hop fade character, which is not desirable. But I'm not getting that with this. And a lot of times the alcohol has a lot to do with it too. This is a 6.25.
Right.
I had the Devil Dancer from Founders, which is a triple IPA, and that's like a 12%er. And it was only 2 months old, or maybe it was 3 months old. Still, right around this date range. It should have been okay, but the hops had faded because they hopped it so much. It was probably 100 plus IBUs. The hops had faded to the point that it had a musty. Kind of like when you open your grandma's closet and you smell mothballs, like not a very pleasant.
Right.
Like it had a weird aroma and flavor to it that was not desirable. I'm not getting that at all with this.
Okay, I think I told you the story. I bought when this beer store on my corner went out of business. They had some of that old, same thing, the Devil Dancer. and it was supposedly a triple IPA, and I think it was 12% and 100 IBUs.
Right.
I had some of it, and to me, I got that musty taste also, but it tasted more like a barley wine than an IPA because the hops had faded so much. It was all malt up front, and the hops had become musty. So it was kind of like an off taste.
What do you remember, like ballpark range, like what you gave it, like rating wise?
I think I gave it like a C-, but I still drank it. It
wasn't a drain pour, but it wasn't.
I think I gave it like a C-. I didn't really like it. And the only reason that it would be valuable, it was 12%, but the fact that it had this musty taste, it wasn't easy to get down. You know, it wasn't like I enjoyed drinking it. So, hi, honey.
All right. So I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and wrap up this live examination. 93 for me, 93 for Michael, 94 for me. It's an excellent beer. If you can get it fresh, that would probably be ideal. But if you're like me and, you know, maybe even Michael, depending on your mood, you might like to buy one that's a few months old.
Here's a 19.2 ounce can.
The malt character with this lives up.
Very good.
It's very nice. You don't get that musty hop fade note, at least within the first 3 months or so. After that, I can't guarantee anything, but the Hoppyum IPA is very good. It's got some nice malt character, some nice hop character. It's easy drinking. It's 6.25%, so you buy a 6-pack and you got a good evening ahead of you. You can even share a few beers with your friends. I don't think you can really go wrong with this. We'll go back to the chat really quick. Bumpy says, cheers to the awesome duo here. And Drunken One says, we look so much alike.
Like twins.
We're twins. Whiskey Scout, Johnny likes it more. I don't know if I like. Yeah, well, I think because of the styles of beer that I like to drink. Michael likes more of the IPAs, so yeah, that makes sense, because if this was super fresh, it would have more hop bitterness, and the malt character wouldn't come through as much. And Michael loves Michael loves a palate wrecker. He likes his West Coast IPAs. He's more into the New England IPAs though now, I think, but he's more open to the West Coast, I think, than I am. But I'm not disparaging that style. I just prefer more malt forward beers. And then he also says Johnny likes his herb. I do like my herbaceous notes in my beer, Robert. And he also says, good job, fellas. Thanks, Robert. We appreciate it. Thanks for watching. This is kind of a last-minute thing. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We got a lot of great comments in the chat. And, Michael, thanks for joining me. I
John, have a good trip on your vacation, too.
Absolutely. I plan on it. I'm so excited. I've been very busy at work. I haven't even been able to join a lot of the Wild Card Wednesdays and some of these other events because I've been so busy. And I hope everybody out there understands it's not personal. It's just I haven't been able to do so. But thanks, Michael, for joining me. I'm glad you got to try a Foothills beer, and you've got a few more. You've got a few more to try. So we might, maybe we'll have to do another one of these before too long. I'm glad you were able to get some of the Foothills beers. So cheers to you. Cheers to everybody in the chat. Thanks for watching. Hope everybody has a great rest of the week and weekend. And until next time, everybody, cheers.
Cheers.